Good evening, everyone. Welcome to City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Monday, July the 3rd. Could we have roll call, please?
Corey Kuntz.
Here.
Chad Kiger, absent. Bruce Pauley.
Here.
Ron Edwards.
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Okay. Minutes for last month. Has everybody looked at them, and is there any concerns? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Tonight we have 3 items on the docket. We'll start with docket number 23-49. James Williamson requesting a development standard variance to construct a 9-foot by 36-foot front porch to be located at 719 Douglas Lane. The property is zoned SF2, which is single-family residential. Ben.
Good evening, board members. Good to see you all this evening after skipping out on you guys last month, and Matt's happy to have me back too, I'm sure. Just to give you, jump right in at 1719 Douglas Lane. The applicant, the homeowner, is proposing to construct a porch on the front of the house, and this kind of gives you an idea of the surroundings here. You'll see the property is a corner lot. The house currently sits on the front setbacks on both front streets. A couple things just to point out. You can see obviously this is a neighborhood that has evolved over time. The house across the street has a covered front porch that extends into that front setback, similar to what's being requested here. Just to kind of give you an idea, there's a variety of things happening in this neighborhood over time. A lot of garages that have been added after the fact. These houses originally didn't have garages, so getting those to fit in means that they don't meet side setbacks. So a lot of things that you have to be kind of flexible to be able to add amenities to these homes. As you know, current residents would like to see on these homes. So this just gives you an idea of the overall property. That the porch would be would extend 9 feet into the front setback, and then 36 feet along the front of the house. Let me just give you an idea. This is what the front of the house looks like now. You can see here from the street, and then let me scroll down and find. They gave us a few ideas of what they were proposing to do. This kind of gives you a little bit of idea of the type of front porch you're looking to add to the front. So very, very nice front porch that would run along the extent of the house, covering the front entry, but then also providing a front porch on the front of the house. So that just kind of gives you a general idea. And again, as I mentioned, the structure sits on the front setback, so this extension of the front porch is also required to meet setbacks. It's not something that's exempt from setbacks, so it does require a variance in order for them to add this front porch to the house. And that is the request that's before you here tonight, is for a front setback variance in order for them to allow them to construct this front porch. So just want to walk through for you just a few items here from the staff report. And again, as I mentioned, they have a 25-foot front building setback, and this extends 9 feet into that front setback. So still have about a 16-foot setback from the front. Let me kind of go back to and that'd be 16 feet from the back of the sidewalk. So you still have significant distance between where that porch would sit and the corner, so it's not going to cause any issues in terms of sight lines at the intersections or anything like that, so we don't see any safety issues. So with that, then, those 3 findings, that first one is, let me grab the right page, that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, and similar, as I just suggested, relief from this front building setback will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. There will still be sufficient visibility at the intersection of Douglas Lane and Syracuse Drive with the encroachment by the front porch. Certainly something we want to make sure we're not causing safety issues at the intersection, and this does not. Second, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. We have determined that the use and value of the area will not be substantially affected. The project proposed by the applicant will provide a significant aesthetic improvement to the subject home, and that actually should increase property values in the area, and certainly the property value of this home as well. And the third, the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. We've determined the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties because of the existing lot sizes within this neighborhood. There is limited ability to make improvements to the fronts of homes, and you can kind of see, going back to that aerial photo, not only the fronts of homes but also sides and rears. So, the way that house sits on there, in order for them to even add a single car garage, that garage basically takes up the entire space between the house and the side setback. So you can kind of see the limitations on some of these lots in order to make improvements that might be necessary as new owners buy these homes and are looking to add amenities to the homes. The applicant is proposing an improvement to the home that would provide protection from the elements and is not dissimilar to the front porch encroaching by the home across the street from the property. So you can see that there are other homes in this area that have similar types of improvements being requested by the applicant. And with that, then, staff has recommended approval of the development standards variance request to permit relief from the front setback requirement of the UDO to allow the construction of a 9 by 36 front porch. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
I have one question. The 25-foot setback. Let me start. Are the houses in Northfield measured from the center of the street or the sidewalk?
It's from the back of the sidewalk.
Do the homes in Northfield, where's the property line at? Is
It's-
it in Northfield? Do you know? Is
They
that
should all be the back of the sidewalk. Yeah, assuming you're in areas where there are sidewalks, yeah, the property lines should all be behind the sidewalk.
Gotcha. Questions? Thank you. Does the applicant have anything to add?
Pretty much Saturday, we just had that. Back in like 2001, they put a new sewer, not sewer line, but water for the drainage sewer. And they came through and they put in that, but then they cut my sewer line and then put it back. And I had to dig up that whole yard. I've been eeling it for 3 times a year for 20 years, and we couldn't ever figure out what it was. So we took our trees down, dug it all up, and come to find out where they tied in out in the middle of the street. They filled my sewer line, which was a 6-inch, it was only like a 3-inch because they filled it full of concrete. And that's the reason I was having so much trouble. So I had to tear my whole yard up. So now that we've done that, we got the yard fixed back right, got the concrete poured and everything like that. We just wanted to put a porch up to make it look like a finished house in. So that's the only thing I have to say about it. That's the reason we're wanting to do that.
Okay.
And just confirming, and this may be a Ben thing, but the frontage on Syracuse is not a variance, right? It's just the frontage towards Douglas?
Correct. This would just affect between the front of the house and Douglas to the on the west side of the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
But
it comes from the front door and goes south.
Okay. Being on the corner of Syracuse is considered a front as well. I was just making sure we were good on both, on that side.
Okay. Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I'm sorry.
Not motioning anything.
This is a public meeting, and it slipped my mind. I'm sorry. Does anybody from the audience have anything to say? Then we'll close the public end of the meeting, and now we'll look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve docket 23-49.
I'll second.
Okay. Corey Coons,
Yes.
Bruce Polly,
Yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Good luck.
Enjoy.
Okay. Next item is docket 2350. It's Gaylor Electric requesting a development standard variance to create outdoor storage area at the rear of the property located 1220 Indianapolis Avenue. The property is zoned planned business commercial and is in the thoroughfare overlay district. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Give you a little bit of an overview here. Gaylor Electric purchased this subject property at 1220 Annapolis Avenue for purposes of moving parts of their business to this property. Gaylor Electric is an electrical contractor. And as part of their operations, they do have some trucks and other equipment that they stage here or would like to stage here. We talked to them about the fact that that would be considered outdoor storage by our ordinance, and this property is located in the thoroughfare overlay district, which does not allow outdoor storage. So we worked with them to locate the equipment storage area to the rear of the property, or as far away as you could get from Indianapolis Avenue to make the visibility less. and then also work with them on improvements in terms of screening. So what they're going to do, I guess when they pull this up and get an idea of where we're at here, the subject property is outlined in yellow. You'll see the existing two-story office building to the front here with an extremely large parking area to the back. You've got other industrial uses to the west and south. You have a church to the north, and then you've got some more intense industrial uses on the other side of Indianapolis Avenue. So they're in an area that's primarily industrial uses, but it is very mixed, and you don't have to go far before you see some residential uses too. But certainly the properties that would be, I'd say, quote-unquote, most impacted by the storage area would be other industrial uses and the rear of a church property. So what we've worked with them is that they're going to screen the area, and let me pull this up here. They're going to fence in the entire area and have a security gate. The northwest and south sides of the storage area would be 8-foot chain link that would have the kind of the security screening or slats that would be in it. And then we wanted something a little bit more substantial on the front, so they're either going to do a wood or vinyl privacy fence other than the gate across the front to provide a more substantial screen to the front. That would all be 8 feet tall to, restrict as much as possible the view that you would see from out on Indianapolis Avenue. Keep in mind also that this corner is several hundred feet from Indianapolis Avenue as well. So while it is, the entire property is in the overlay district, this is not a part of the property. It's terribly visible from Indianapolis Avenue, and certainly would be much less visible with the 8-foot tall fence that's surrounding that area. In addition to the fence, we also talked to them about adding some additional landscaping around the building, just again to provide some additional natural screening from the back of the property. So you can see here they have a number of evergreen trees and other trees that they're kind of planting on this corner of the grass area that's around the building, just again to limit, other than in the drive areas, visibility to the back of the property, then also adding some additional landscaping to the front of the parking area. They are also adding a second drive around this side of the building that's not there now, and doing some other improvements to this front parking area. So they are proposing to make substantial improvements to the property, and the addition of the fence that proposed to screen that area, then also the landscaping that will provide some other natural screening to the rear of the property. We felt like that was an appropriate consideration in order for them to request the outdoor storage variance. Just to kind of go back a little bit here, you can also see across the street, we've got areas that also have outdoor storage at other properties around here, so it's not something that's atypical of this area to see some areas of outdoor storage. In addition, this is a paved area, so we usually prefer any new storage, outdoor storage, to be paved areas, which this would be. So we've worked with their designer to be able to come up with something that we were comfortable with. But with that, then I will also go through the findings. And again, as I've mentioned, their request is for a variance for outdoor storage, and the outdoor storage area would be as shown on the site plan here within this fenced-in area at the back of the property. And those three findings we'll run through real quick. The first is that the approval not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, and we've determined that the proposed outdoor storage area poses no imminent threat to public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And I would determine that the requested variance would not affect the use and value of the area. The proposed outdoor storage would be adequately screened on all sides of an 8-foot tall fence, limiting views from adjacent properties. In addition, the east side of the storage area facing Indianapolis Avenue will be fenced with a wood or vinyl privacy fence, providing a more substantial screen from the public road. In addition, the storage area is over 300 feet from the street, and the landscaping proposed by the applicant around the building will help to screen the view to the rear of the property. And criteria number 3, strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties. We've determined the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties. While the property itself is within the Thoroughfare Overlay District, the proposed storage area is well over 300 feet from the front property line and almost 400 feet from the edge of Indianapolis Avenue, which would limit any visual impact of the proposed storage area. In addition, there are a number of other uses along this corridor that are approved for outdoor storage in a similar fashion, including the Boone RMC, which is right across the street from the subject property. So with determining those all in the positive, City of Lebanon Planning Staff has recommended approval of the variance request to permit relief from outdoor storage prohibition in the Thoroughfare Overlay District, subject to the following conditions. And number 1, that would be that the applicant would install a fence enclosing the proposed outdoor storage area. This fence shall be an 8-foot tall chain link fence with privacy slats on the northwest and south sides, and an 8-foot tall wood or vinyl privacy fence on the east side facing Indianapolis Avenue. And number 2, that the applicant limit outdoor storage only to the proposed storage area within the fence. No additional area on the property can be used for outdoor storage. That's all I've got, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think we're good.
Good.
The applicant want to add anything?
I don't have a lot to add, but we are doing a lot to improve that building and feel like it's going to be a real positive for the city of Lebanon. My name's Jim Cruz. I'm with Gaylor Electric.
Okay, thank you. Once again, this is a public meeting. Anybody in the audience, I'll open it for the public if anybody in the audience cares to step forward and talk about it or anything. Come to the microphone, please.
My name's Mark DeWeese. I'm one of the new owners of ATP Welding, which backs right up against, or that property backs right up against our property. And more question than anything else, I suppose there'll be resurveying the property lines and everything on that property before the screening and everything's done. Is that a normal course of action?
Let Ben answer that question.
Okay.
But after you have any other questions?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm just kind of getting the lay of the land on what's going on since it does butt up against our property. We took, one of my associates looked at the map, and it looks like our property goes farther to the east than I originally thought it did. So I just wanted to make sure it was clarified and it was accurate.
I'm sure it will be, but we'll let Ben answer.
Sure. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public end and see if Ben can answer that question.
Yeah, so they may have already done some survey work upon purchasing the property, but certainly in terms of placing that fence, we would want to make sure that they're putting it on their property and not on adjacent property. So we'll work with them to determine exact locations of property lines based on surveys to make sure that that fence is located.
Now, does the 3-foot setback apply here for the?
It does. So if they're wanting to put it on the property line, they'd have to get agreements with the neighboring property owners. Otherwise, it would need to be 3 feet off the property line. And there may be some easements back there too. We'll have to work through that with them as we.
You say it was 3 foot?
If, so they can either have, if with approval from the neighboring property owners, they can place it on the property line, and that would be based on surveyed property lines, or absent agreement with neighboring property owners, then it would have to be 3 feet off the property line.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ben? Okay. Guess, looking for a motion.
Lori, you're so good at these. This is one of the technical ones with like
You want me
recommendations
to
and
do
stuff.
this? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the variance request to permit relief from prohibition of outdoor storage to allow the installation of proposed storage yards, subject to the following condition: that the applicant install a fence enclosing the proposed outdoor storage area, and that the applicant limit outdoor storage to the proposed storage area within the fence.
Second.
I'm off the hook.
Corey Coontz,
Yes.
Bruce Polly,
Yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross. Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations, good luck. We have one more item tonight. Item 23-51, Refuge Teen Challenge, requesting conditional use to permit a boarding house to be located at 1121 North Lebanon Street. This property is zoned PBC, Planned Business Commercial, and is in the thoroughfare overlay district. Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Polly. I'll give you a couple of pieces of background information here. We'll start with the aerial photography and give you a lay of the land here. For those of you, some of you may recall, at least for those of you that have been on the Plan Commission for a little bit of time, this is a property that until, let me double check, a little less than a year ago was actually zoned residential, and the property owner requested and received approval to rezone it to the Planned Business Commercial Zoning District. That owner also owns this property to the north that has a dentist's office. I believe there's a small professional office in there also. Is looking to put the same time of, I would say, lower intensity commercial uses in this building, whether that be a hair salon or a accounting office or something like that. That's what he was intending, was to try to use that, repurpose this residential structure. Since that time, Mr. Coots may know the history here. The RDC purchased the Net
Don't
Tech
know a
building
thing about it.
downtown. The Net Tech building, I guess I would call it the Net Tech building, but it's the Shaved Ice building now because it's the commercial tenants on the first floor. And there are a couple of residential units on the upper floor, and one of those tenants was Refuge Teen Challenge. They were using that for housing some of their teen girls, that I see some of them are here tonight. And so our purpose for that building is to get that in the hands of another investor to totally remodel the building. So actually, the residential tenants, we've asked to, over a period of time, to find other accommodations, and we're working with the commercial tenants. So because of the fact that the RDC purchased the Shaved Ice building and the residential tenants are moving out, Refuge Teen Challenge is looking for a new home. So, and that is the reason for the request tonight for the boarding house on North Lebanon Street. And another thing that I just want to walk through is why is this considered a boarding house versus multifamily, single family, those sorts of things? Why do we come to this conclusion? And it was kind of like we're going through and determining which one it was not and versus which one it is. So the reason it's not multifamily is in a multifamily structure, each unit needs to have its own kitchen and bathroom facilities. And this is obviously a house with shared facilities, so it couldn't be multifamily because you got more than one bedroom unit, but they're having shared facilities. And the reason it's not single family is because you have more than 3 unrelated individuals living in the house, which means it can no longer qualify as a single family structure. And of course, single family is not permitted in the commercial zoning district anyway. So now with the Planned Business Commercial Zoning District, I think our last remaining residential type is boarding house, where you have, while this won't have each individual bedroom or unit being rented separately, it's all being rented as a whole structure. They are essentially residential units that are all sharing kitchen and bathroom facilities in the structure, which most closely relates to the boarding house use. So that's the reason for the request tonight. In the Planned Business Commercial Zoning District, boarding houses are a conditional use, which means that that's required to come to the Board of Zoning Appeals for consideration and any potential conditions that might need to be placed if it's determined that it is an appropriate use for that area. So that's a request for you tonight, is for conditional use for that structure, and then there are a series of evaluation criteria that we go through, same as all conditional uses, to determine whether this could or should be approved or not. And the first is that the proposed use is listed as a conditional use for the subject site, and per the Unified Development Ordinance, the Land Use Matrix in Section 4.2, boarding houses are listed as a conditional use in the Planned Business Commercial Zoning classification. So we have satisfied that first criteria. The second one is the established maintenance or operation of the conditional use will not be determined to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. And the staff has determined that the applicant's proposal for a boarding house will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The 4-bedroom, 1-bath home has adequate facilities for the proposal by the applicant. Evaluation criteria number 3 is a conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity. And then we determined that the applicant's proposed boarding house use will not impair the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity or property values in the neighborhood or zoning district. The subject property is bordered on the west by Walgreens Pharmacy, fairly intensive commercial use, on the north by a dentist office, and on the south and east by residential uses. I believe one of them may actually be a rental. The proposed boarding house use would seem to fit within the variety of commercial and residential uses we're finding within this area. Evaluation criteria number 4, the establishment of the conditional use will not impede or substantially alter the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding properties. Staff has determined that the applicant is not proposing to make any significant exterior modifications to the single-family residential structure that would impact the surrounding uses. Boarding house uses are required to have 1 parking space for each guest room. The staff is recommending that the applicant and property owner work to provide 4 parking spaces for the proposed use, which would be 1 per bedroom in the house. In addition, in order to maintain the single-family nature of the structure, staff is recommending limiting the 4-bedroom home to no more than 4 boarding house units and no more than 4 tenants or 1 per unit. And in terms of the parking, if they want to pull the aerial photography back up, we'll kind of show So one thing we're looking at, or we'll work on with the owner of the property, is there is currently a 2-car garage in the back, which would technically count for 2 parking spaces. They do have some space where they can park behind that, I believe, or beside that, and add at least 1 more parking space. So one thing we may do is, I'm assuming that the owner is not interested at the current time in putting a parking lot in the front of the building, so what we may do is work with him to see whether he is adequately or over-parked for the dentist's office next door. He might be able to designate 1 additional space to this use. We'll let the applicant talk, but I don't believe any of their tenants, the teens have cars that would be parked here. So it really would just be the house mother living there that would have a car, I would expect, and visitors. So I would imagine that what's being provided here would be adequate if we're able to provide those parking in the parking garage, and then maybe a couple of space or 2 that's designated for them from the adjacent use. But we'll work with that with the property owner and figure out how best to accommodate those 4 parking spaces required for the boarding house. Evaluation criteria number 5 is that adequate utilities have been or will be provided. And this is an existing home, so all required utilities and transportation infrastructure are already provided to the site. And the final one is the proposed use is not in conflict with the goals of the comprehensive plan or the Unified Development Ordinance, and staff has determined the proposed use is not in conflict with either of those documents. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as appropriate for residential uses, and the use proposed by the applicant would not alter the residential character of the property. In fact, it's already been rezoned to commercial, so we already have zoning in place for something other than residential uses, but the lot is sized appropriately for what we're talking about, and we don't expect it to be substantially altered by accommodating this use. So with that, we have determined that each of those 6 criteria have been answered in the affirmative, and thus, in review of the requested conditional use for the allowance of a boarding house in the planned business commercial zoning classification, planning staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions, and these will look somewhat familiar because we just had a similar use on the last month's agenda. And that would be that the applicant maintain the single-family character on the exterior of the home. Number 2, that the boarding house use is limited to 4 units and no more than 4 total residents on the subject property. And number 3, that the applicant provide the required 4 parking spaces per ordinance requirements for boarding house uses, to address some of the concerns that we've had about these uses as they're moving forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Would it be advantageous to, real quick, on the difference between the planned business commercial here and the residential of the Baptist Church parsonage?
Yeah, so the property downtown is actually zoned central business, which primarily allows commercial uses, some limited single family, and then if it's a multi-story building, residential on upper floors where you have non-residential on the first floor. So planned business commercial is more of a traditional commercial zoning district. It is where, our zoning districts, planned business commercial, have gas stations and fast food restaurants and those. So it's a more intensive commercial zoning district, whereas central business is meant for the downtown district where you've got uses related to downtown, et cetera, including residential uses. So we're in a little bit more intensive of a zoning district here, and it's obviously surrounded by a mix of uses. You got Walgreens across the street. That's a very intensive commercial use. Dentist office is certainly not intensive of a use as Walgreens, but does have traffic every day. So we're in a little bit different environment here, busier street, more intensive commercial uses, but also an area that's kind of a mix of those commercial uses and some residential as you go east from here. So this is, in my mind, not a bad transitional use where you're going from a more traditional single-family residential area to where you've got higher intensity commercial uses out on the corridor on Lebanon Street.
Questions for Ben?
With the recommendation of 4 residents, is that 4 unrelated residents?
Yes.
So in an event of, you have the 4 units and say mother and child would count as a single resident?
Yes, I don't believe there's actually mother children in here, but
In the current.
sisters would probably be more appropriate for something like this.
Okay.
But I would say we're looking at just 4 total residents. I'd probably answer your initial question incorrectly. So if they're sisters, that counts as 2.
That would be 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to step forward and answer any questions or give us a little more information?
Hello. My name is Makai, and I'm more of the house mother, as he said. So I'm a staff at the Refuge Teen Challenge right now, and all this reentry house is just pretty much an extension of our program. So the girls graduate. So we have 2 girls who have graduated. They go through the program, then they graduate, and they make a decision to stay and learn life skills and how to save money and how to just become a useful member of society again. So that's what the reentry house is about. So I'm a staff of Teen Challenge, but I will be like the house mother. They live with me. I have 1 girl living with me right now, and 2 of these girls will be coming to live with me if we're approved. So that's all it's really about.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public meeting again tonight. Anybody, audience, care to step forward?
Hello, my name's Walt Peha. I live on 125 West Euland, so it would be, I'm pretty much to the east of the Teen Challenge Center, and I would be to the southeast of this proposed location that they've got. A couple things. I've been living in that house since 2007. Have been witness to a lot of the good works that these folks have been doing. There's a couple things that I do want to say, like right up front. If my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is the girls that live in the Teen Challenge Center, which is the blue house there on North Lebanon and West Euland, they're admitted, and if I understood it correctly, it's involuntarily. Okay, so they're there because of a lot of different things going on, but typically this is one of those things that they're being taken out of a very bad situation, put into a stable environment, and in addition to trying to learn life skills, they're being socialized and those types of things. So typically these girls are coming in with some problems. And I can tell you, I've been witness to it a couple times. We've got, well, more than a couple times, we've got the police who would be there at midnight because of some acting out, okay? But having children and understanding how that works, I think that's par for the course and shows the mission and ministry of what these folks are doing. This house, on the other hand, is not part of that. These girls are voluntarily going to this facility. So I think that speaks to the work that they're doing there, that these girls feel that, hey, this is one extra thing that I can learn. I'm going to be learning life skills. I'm going to be being a better person and a better citizen, right? We've got girls from all over. We got California, where? Tennessee, Oklahoma, Lafayette, Indiana too, right? And but
Long drive.
But the Teen Challenge, the organization that they're with, I've had a lot of experience with Jabalt. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Jabalt Children's Home out in Terre Haute, Indiana. A little bit similar, not as severe with what's going on. Jabalt is taking kids, underage kids from 6 to 24, and this is essentially their last stop in the system at Jabalt. These guys are a little bit farther down, but they're still doing the tremendous good work that they, that I think as a good community we should be doing. The benefit to our community, I think number 2 that you were talking about, is it detrimental to the community? My wife is the operations director over at St. Joe's, and we see this as definitely an enhancement to the community. It's a true benefit that what we're doing is we're doing the hard work of taking those kids who have been either neglected or left by society and really giving them an opportunity to see what a good life is like, what it's like to be good citizens and be productive members of society. So we're firmly behind them. And I think it's very important that this type of mission and ministry continue. I think it speaks well for Lebanon. It speaks well for our family values. It shows that we really do care, and it's not just about having an intact family, but showing them what families are like. So, and again, I've been 14, 15 years across the street from them. my dog will get out, and he loves going over there. He does, and I think most of the girls know Shasti. So he'll get out, and they want to come over and bring him back. Well, they wait, they take their time getting him back over to me. But I think that just speaks to the good work that they're doing, right? So I would strongly urge you to consider this and in the affirmative, and I look forward to hearing what you have to vote on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to step forward? Okay, we'll close the public end of the meeting. Does the board have any questions for anybody?
I just have a quick kind of comment. So I have no official tie to the house officially, but over the last 6 months, we seem to have run into each other quite a lot here. As Ben was quick to drive the bus over me, I may have had a part in kind of losing the house situation. So really, it wasn't you, it was me. It was, but you know, here's the really cool thing. The next step of that journey was the coffee trailer, right? And that was a pretty different journey for you guys, right? It came in front of the board and there were some conversations there. But I've also listened to some of the backstory, and that coffee trailer is what led to this housing opportunity as well. So as you look at how things really go kind of full circle and kind of work themselves out, I'd like to say that I was part of losing the house and then getting housing for you, because it makes me feel a lot better about things. But pretty amazing stuff going on over there. You can obviously see it, and a lot of passion, not only from neighbors, but from individuals working with you folks. So pretty excited. Very cool stuff.
Okay, motion time.
So I would make the motion to approve docket number 23-51 with the following conditions. One, that the applicant maintain the single-family character of the exterior of the home. Two, that the boarding house use is limited to 4 units and no more than 4 total residents. And 3, that the applicant provide the required 4 parking spaces per ordinance for the home.
Second.
They have a motion and a second.
Okay. Corey Coons?
Yes.
Bruce Polly?
Yes,
Ron Edwards?
Yes.
Lloyd Gross?
Yes.
motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, that's all of our agenda for tonight, unless somebody else has something they want to bring up. Next scheduled board meeting is Monday, August the 7th at 7 PM in this room. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.